I think eventually I have to get that respect back, because I obviously don't have it on his end. We've seen with the next gen car, that's just how you have to race. You have to race like an asshole, and Denny races like an asshole. So I guess I will going forward.
It's episode 8 of the High Limit Room. Dillon Welch along with Kyle Larson and Brad Sweet previewing our next race for the High Limit Sprint Car Series, which is Grandview. We're recording this on Monday, the 24th, and we race tomorrow on July the 25th. We have a lot to talk about. There's been a lot that's happened since the last time we've raced and the last show we've done. We can start with a victory toast for Kyle for winning the Don Martin Memorial Silver Cup a couple of weeks ago now at Lernerville. His 29th All-Star win, I should say. I'm drinking water this morning because it's 9:20 a.m. But $25,000 victory for Kyle. And apart from that, we've got, of course, the Million to recap, Kings Royal, Pennsylvania silly season with all the driver swapping that's going on over there. And as of yesterday, we can add Pocono to the list of things to discuss quickly before we talk about sprint car racing. So, Kyle, I guess first let's talk about Silver Cup just real quick at Lernerville. Big win for you in kind of the thought process that we're going back there with the High Limit Sprint Car Series for the second $50,000 to win race of the year. So was it nice to get a kind of a big money win under your belt there before we go back for $50K in a month or so, couple months?
Yeah, definitely. No, it was good to obviously win there. I've never been to Lernerville and it's been that slick either. So that was difficult. It was I was pretty bad. I felt like in the heat race and even in the dash, I wasn't that good. And then in the feature, as always, Paul got us a little bit better. So I imagine, depending on weather, I guess, the track at Lernerville will be slick again. And I think, the guys that will be there, it should be a little bit tougher field when we go back for the high limit race. So I'm sure some guys will be there that are really good in the slicks. So we'll still have to get quite a bit better, I think, to have a shot at winning. But it was great to win another $25,000 and beat Brent Marks and Justin Peck, who were both really good. So that was good. The crowd was better than I anticipated. I know the crowd is going to be huge when we go back with the High Limit Series. So looking forward to all of that.
And that race is September 26th, though we're still a little ways away from that. It's the third to last race of the year scheduled right now for High Limit. So, all right, let's get Pocono out of the way here before we talk about some more sprint car stuff. So I thought you had a great interview on TV yesterday, just kind of talking about the last few laps and everything that happened there. But you've had some time to kind of decompress and think about it, I guess. So my question is, how much longer is this going to continue before you guys decide you aren't friends anymore, or that you don't want to hang out with each other? Because he's run you this way a couple times now. So I would imagine you're running out of rope here, I think.
I don't know. I mean, that's the tough part about racing and friendships and all that. But I don't know. I mean, you try hard to not let that stuff you linger to where it affects off the track, but obviously on the track, I mean, I feel like, I've got reason to be upset, a handful of times now, and most of the times that he's gotten into me, it's nothing intentional, or anything like that, where yesterday is the first time I've been actually, like, I would say upset with stuff that's happened from him to me, just because it was intentional. He went in there to, run as close as he could to my left side, which he did hit me. I know he says he didn't, but the replays clearly show that he makes contact with me and then my car shoots up the racetrack. So, it was an intentional move. I don't know if he necessarily meant to put me in the wall, but yes, I mean, I have a reason to be upset about yesterday. So, just it sucks, but you learn from things like that, and you race people differently going forward. So that's my full intention, is to not give him an inch like he hasn't been giving me a quarter of an inch. So, yeah. And then, kind of is what it is after that. But yeah, I mean, I feel like, I can't deny that I have not, made it moves exactly the same way as that, or put others in tough spots. But, I feel like I can expect to be raced that same way back from those people, where I haven't put Denny in the wall. I've been spun off his front bumper, many a times now. So, I think eventually I have to get that respect back, because I obviously don't have it on his end. Yeah. I mean, he may respect my talent and stuff like that, like you said, but I feel like when we're racing with each other, I don't get the same respect that I feel like I give him.
What is that like in the NASCAR world? I mean, like, you guys all have relationships, and I know that there's friendships you have with other guys besides just Denny. Like, we bring that up just because it's been brought up and it's a thing to talk about. But like, how are those relationships, I guess, handled when stuff like this happens? Like, is it something where you compartmentalize it and you're like, okay, I'm just going to race this guy the same way he raced me? Or like, do you believe that like talking to guys outside of the racetrack is the way to go there?
No, I mean, I don't really like talking, whether things happen on accident or intentionally. I think it's best to just, move on. I'm just that type of person. I don't really like confrontation. I like things to move over as quickly as possible, whether that be racing stuff or things with Caitlin, even, when she's upset with me. Like, I don't do the best job of communicating, but with the racing stuff, it's just, I don't know. It's just an awkward conversation that doesn't really change anything. It doesn't change the result that happened. Sure, in situations where you truly are sorry, I think it's important to reach out and say you're sorry. But again, it doesn't change the result. It probably doesn't change the way that person feels about you. And then there's times where, I mean, you're not sorry and you shouldn't have to reach out. So I know he's not sorry. He shouldn't be sorry. He did what he thought he had to do to win the race, and he ultimately won the race. So it's just the stuff that I've heard, after the race now is really what's frustrated me even more. For him to say that he didn't hit me. How do you crash somebody when you don't even touch them? Well, you did touch me. You can look at the onboard from the 4-car, and you can tell the angle that I have after he hits the left side of my car. I have no angle to make the rest of the corner. I've looked at SMT. I was off the throttle as soon as he hit me, all the way until I hit the wall. So when he says, you have a choice to lift, I did lift. So all that stuff just pisses me off. But maybe he wasn't, obviously, after the race, you don't have the time to look at SMT. He probably didn't. I didn't even see the angle of the 4-car until, after midnight last night. So I know he didn't see that during all his Victory Lane stuff. So maybe his opinion changes a little bit, today. But I know he feels a certain way about, I guess, the way that I race, or he thinks that I race. But I've seen him put more people in that position than I've put in that position. Sure, I got Bubba into the wall, and he retaliated, and he had every right to be mad at me. Denny doesn't think I should be mad at him. It seems like, though.
You at least did a better job of not crashing 3 other cars, like what happened when the exact same thing happened last year with he in the 1 car. So that was a positive, at least.
Well, Brad, I mean, too, all the whole scenario ran through my head before, the final 2 restarts. I had Denny to my inside the second to last restart. I got a good push from behind. So I didn't have to worry about him running me in the fence then. But it all ran through my head before. I was like, okay, I know if he gets my inside, he's going to pull the same move he did to me on Ross, because, it worked for him here. So I told myself, do not hook him. Don't, if he puts you in the wall, try and breathe and do what you can to slow him down, but don't right hook him. But, so yeah, I mean, you can expect things from guys, and I expect Denny to race me that way. So I've seen him do it to others. But I felt like, Martin on that the same scenario happened the restart before, and Martin's probably the cleanest race car driver on the track, and he didn't pull the move. So, but Martin also didn't win. So, I guess, we've seen with the next gen car, that's just how you have to race. You have to race like an asshole, and Denny races like an asshole. So, I guess I will going forward.
Brad, what about for you guys? I mean, it's different obviously in sprint car stuff than NASCAR stuff. Like you can't just drive down in there and, knock somebody out of the way. I mean, you could, I guess, if you wanted to, but you're, not.
You just fight afterwards. I mean,
so, but that's what I was going to say is like, you're kind of a guy that I think I don't want to say likes to fight, but you're a guy that, will, I mean, maybe we will say it. Kyle, I'll let you say that, but you're a guy that I think would maybe be, a little bit more willing to kind of have a discussion with somebody about something like that if you feel like you're wrong. I mean, is that accurate? Is that how you feel like that stuff is handled for sprint car guys that race each other 80 times a year, or do you just run guys dirtier if you feel like if you've been wronged?
I mean, everyone has a different personality. I think for me, like listening to Kyle, he's just way too nice. Like I would just absolutely, let Denny know, in one way or other that was absolutely unacceptable. Whether that was down there fighting or whether that was making sure that he didn't win the race. I don't know. I feel like you got to earn that respect and stick up for yourself in certain situations so people know, not to mess with you. And I've had to do that in sprint car racing, but typically we all race each other pretty clean. If there's a guy that comes along that's dirty or that's kind of racing dirty, it seems like they get called out pretty quick in sprint car racing anyway. Whether that's a confrontation in the pits or just sometimes young guys need to get taught, just learn and like earn that respect. So with Kyle, it's like, Denny's been around forever, and it's like, he completely understands what he's doing, and I feel like, Kyle's just going to have to, make sure that doesn't happen to him again, with Denny.
And Kyle said that that's what he was going to do moving forward. So we'll watch it Richmond. That's first up this weekend for NASCAR. All right. Let's talk about the million. Nobody is too rich to be on this podcast anymore. Nobody won the $1 million. So we're all still here. But let's talk about it. And you guys have both been a part of big events in sprint car racing. You've been a part of bigger events outside of sprint car racing. What did you think about just the event itself? Not even the racing, but just kind of the vibe, the feel, the ambiance of the environment of going for $1 million. And Kyle, we can start with you.
I don't know. It was weird. I'm curious what Brad will say as well. But like, I don't know. I was trying to like feel the energy, and I just never really felt much energy through the crowd. Like before the race, I thought at least before the main event, it would be rowdy and loud and you could hear the crowd, but man, it was just like silent. So it was just weird. I don't know if it's because I just don't know if the fans also felt the pressure of what the drivers are about to go through, race for $1 million or what, but it didn't feel like a Saturday night Kings Royal crowd. Even if the crowd was a similar size, which I'm sure was a little bit smaller, just being, a Thursday night, but it was still packed. So yeah, I don't know. I just didn't really like feel the energy that much before the feature, but still when you're going across the intro stage and you're strapping in the car, like us as a driver and competitor, like it's on the line, and that part, that feel that you get is a lot of fun as a driver. So yeah, I had that feel. It felt like, hey, if you win this race right here, like you're doing something pretty historic. So that part I liked, but I don't know. I think if that event was to continue, down the road, it would get bigger. I think the energy would get bigger. I think the first event, it was just a little confusing. I think fans were just confused on how to act on a Thursday night rather than a weekend. So, but no, it was still great. I'm super thankful for Eldora Speedway and FloRacing, Tony Stewart, everybody who, put the money up to allow the teams and drivers to race for that. Congratulations to Logan and Shark Racing. That was, we're all deserving of it, of $1 million, I feel like, but that team more than others, just seeing where they've come from in the last 10 years, to ultimately win $1 million race is pretty damn special. So, that was really cool to see. I thought Brad was going to be able to steal it there on some of them restarts, but Logan was just too fast out in clean air.
Yeah, I feel like you're kind of on the same, wavelength, Kyle. Like, I felt like the crowd was good, like really good for a Thursday night. Like, there was a lot of people there, but the energy was down a little bit. So not sure why that was. But I thought it was maybe like nervous energy because there was $1 million on the line. Maybe this kind of the crowd had that same feeling. I thought the prelim night racing was the best racing of the weekend. The track seemed like the heat races were great. Cars were passing, coming from 8th in those heat races and kind of getting in transfers. I think the invert worked really well because you split the field and it was an 8. So the front of the field, made it conducive to racing, and passing. So yeah, it was, and the track was good. And then, the million, like you said, just like I had, kind of like excited energy. I was in a good spot. Once I won my heat race, I felt like I was in a good spot. And then, ultimately just didn't get the job done. But like you said, happy for Logan. I've watched Shark Racing come from the very bottom to the top. And they definitely deserve every bit of that. And I know Scruffy, I'm sure he's already got a lot of it spent, but I'm happy for them for sure.
Did you guys feel like you raced differently? And maybe this is a better question for Brad, since you were kind of in the mix for the million, really. Kyle was too, but Brad, you were I guess a little closer to the front. But did you feel like you guys did anything differently or approached things differently in the race, given what was at stake?
I definitely thought in my head like it's all or nothing, in a way, but there's just only so much you can do. Logan, I felt like had the best car. He was fast time, went 8th the first in his heat. Like, he was just really fast from the word go. And then you put him on the pole, because the way the format worked, the fast guys ended up in the probably the 3, 4, 5 fastest cars were in the top 5 spots. So it was always going to be hard to pass. Like, Carson was really fast and so was Logan. I just knew that my restarts were really the only opportunity I was going to probably have to ever gain the track position. So I just tried to be a little more aggressive, or, just as aggressive as I possibly could. So that might be the only thing that'd be like a little bit different. I didn't really care if I got myself in a tight spot or not. I just figured like you were either going to make it through and win the $1 million, or give yourself a shot to win $1 million, or you weren't. Where typically you're racing for points or, a lot less money. But yeah, it honestly, 50 laps, stopped at lap 20 and then 30 more. I felt like we just kind of hammered around there. I felt like the race was a fast pace and there just wasn't a lot of opportunity. I didn't feel like to do anything. I kind of felt like you'd get a restart and the lap cars kind of all stayed low, and it created probably not as exciting a race as I had hoped for. But that's just sometimes how it goes in sprint car racing.
Is that a product? Go ahead, Kyle.
I was just going to say, I got caught up in that big wreck and I went up on top of the trailer to watch the rest of the race. And I don't know where all the cars went. like the field was way smaller, after that crash, obviously. And I was like, man, I was like, man, they're never going to get into thick lap traffic. Everybody was kind of spread out. You could look ahead and the leader always had a clean lane. So, it made the race. I think that crash really affected the race. I think if you go 30 laps, nonstop to end the race, but you have 5 more cars on the track, I think the race looks different. I think Carson gets a little closer to him, which also brings Brad a little closer. And maybe, I don't know if the result's any different, but I think the race looks a little bit better. So, I thought the crash really, affected the overall entertainment of the race.
Yeah, and it took out a lot of good cars too, obviously. So that was another part of it. Kyle, you've been a part of and won $1 million races before. Did this race feel any different than those? I mean, it is different. It's a different car, obviously, but was your mindset different than the other $1 million races you've been a part of?
Well, I think I would say when I first started racing the All-Star races in the Cup Series, it was like, I just remember being like jacked up and not so nervous, but just like probably how Brad felt, before the race, or at Eldora. But then like after you race a few of them, then you win it once, your nerves kind of go down for the next time, then you win again and it goes down. And then for like North Wilkesboro this year, you end up really not even thinking about the money part of it. You just really want to win another big race and get a cool trophy and all that. And I wouldn't say I had that same exact feeling for Eldora, but I felt more kind of like relaxed and at peace with the race and with the result, whatever it may be. Now, if I would have won, I don't know, maybe once you cross the checkered, I would have been, more jacked up than I was for my first All-Star win. I don't know. But I think, just with age and experience, your nerves aren't quite as much as they were, when I was a 21-year-old who didn't have, much to my name, I guess, really at that point in my life. So, that first $1 million win I got, went a long way. So, I think I just think with age and experience, you're a little more relaxed for all events, even the big ones.
Brad, how are you feeling at the lap 20 break when you were still in the mix? You could reach out and grab it almost, but you still had a full feature effectively to run.
Yeah. Surprisingly, I was really calm all day. Like I didn't have the nerves that I thought I was going to have. Even like, especially after the heat race, I felt really just comfortable with whatever the outcome was. It was because we brought the best car we could. I showed up ready to race. We put ourselves in a good position, and then you kind of just race it out. So, after the first 20 laps, I was kind of concerned because I didn't feel like I had enough speed. Obviously they were driving away from me. So we kind of threw a few things at it, just hoping that something would wake the car up just a little bit more. So maybe I could, make a little bit more of a run at it. So, I was kind of thinking at that point, I needed some help to win the race, and I knew we needed to make some changes with our car. So we tried a few things, but it was a little bit better, but it just ultimately wasn't fast enough. Once Logan would get going, you just couldn't see him. So I got by Carson, had a little bit of battle with him, but even he would be able to get back by me. I'd get him on the restart, and then it seemed like he had a little more speed than me. So just wasn't our night that night, but the Napa guys put a solid effort in. So can't really complain about third place there.
Perhaps the most dramatic event of the weekend was the morning of, right, when Anthony Macri was relieved of his duties from the family car, and Lance DeWeese was brought in to drive that, who's since been released from his own ride, the Crite 69 back in Pennsylvania. So there's something in the water in PA right now, apparently, with all these guys moving cars around and getting fired from their family cars and whatnot. Was that Macri thing as big of a bomb drop to you guys as it seemed like it was? Were you surprised by that?
I mean, I was surprised because I thought they were doing so good. Like Joe Mooney, who was my car chief for the last 4 years, is so he's Anthony's crew chief now. So I kind of pay attention and always give Joe a shout out or text, like, and they've been winning lots of races. They've been running really good. I'm like, thinking that Anthony's a guy that you're going to always have to contend with at a lot of these races. And then you wake up the morning of and they broke up, and I just assumed it was obviously some sort of family. Anytime there's or dads and sons involved, you get weird arguments or weird fights that cause stuff like that. So that part of it, over the years doesn't really surprise me anymore because I've seen it so many times. But yeah, just kind of a shocker because like really if they could have just got along a little bit longer, Anthony would have had a really decent shot to try to win $1 million and a Kings Royal and all these big races coming up. And it's never a good time to try to switch cars at this point. So maybe it's a life lesson for him.
Yeah, weird timing, and it affects the high limit stuff too. He was second in points, so
just trying to give it to Kyle nowadays.
I know. Well, and so that's the other layer of this onion, right? Is that Tyler Courtney gets hurt, so now Anthony Macri is in the 7BC for the All-Star races and the Indy Race Part 71 for the high limit races. So he'll still be around, and Bernie's cars are good. You guys know that. Yeah. So we can't give it to Kyle quite yet, I don't think, Brad.
No. I hope someone gives him a run for his money. He can't take it all, hopefully.
Walker told me yesterday he hopes I get a flat. Like, what?
Man, that's harsh.
Hey, promoters, man. The promoters in us want to see we want it to be a little bit more exciting show. So yeah, we don't want to have to manufacture it, but if it happens, we're not going to complain.
Before we preview Grandview kind of in a little more detail coming up tomorrow, I do want to talk about Kings Royal just to finish our Eldora discussion. So not the end of the weekend that I know either of you guys was hoping for, but the format there is unique, right? I mean, it's maybe the hardest part of that entire weekend is just having it all go the way you need it to go to put yourself in the best position to go after a Kings Royal win. So I want to get your thoughts on that, Kyle, and just kind of the challenge of maximizing each time you're on the racetrack and how you put yourself in the best position possible to potentially win a Kings Royal.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting format. I feel like the Kings Royal format's been around the way it is for a long time now. They've had small twists to it with the wheel and whatnot, which I feel like the wheel was good. Have that. I think they had it the previous 2 or 3 years, and that kind of kept you honest for qualifying. Because you didn't know where that wheel was going to land, and if you would miss the invert if you try to sandbag a little bit. Where this year was back to the 6-car invert. It had rained, all morning long and even into the afternoon. So you knew the track was going to be heavy and hard to pass. So there was a few or a couple top qualifiers that played the invert game right. And, I think if the wheel was there, you wouldn't have had as much of that. So, but I will say that format works the best for the 57 because we suck at qualifying. So that's the only format I feel comfortable with for us in our qualifying program. So we went like 2/10 quicker around there than I've ever gone, and still was 15th quick. So lined up on the outside of the second row of the heat race, which I was happy about. I thought that was a good spot to be in. And then, Gravel went out there and, nailed his lap and started on the pole of our race. So that kind of was a bummer, but it's just, it's a tough format. I think that format is amazing. I think it, like for racing when the track is in good shape, obviously the weather kind of killed the racing that night, but I've seen great heat races for the Kings Royal when the track's, wide and racy and in the positions, and they changed up, where I don't know if it was for this or the million, but they had the redraw stuff. But normally like heat 6 is you win it and you're on the pole, you're on second, you start 12th. So that's how it was still. How it was still? Okay. I think that part's awesome. Like it makes, when the track is good, like it makes you each position mean even more. So, we just didn't get all that excitement because of the way the track was. But I think bring the wheel back and the format's fine.
Yeah,
I'm curious. Go ahead, Brad.
I was going to say I agree. The wheel is the one thing that like just no one can really complain. They could land on whatever numbers they put on it, and like nobody's going to know if they need to sandbag or not sandbag. And then it is just more like luck of the draw. You go out and get this time, and then wherever you fall, then you got to race. And I think that's the idea of the format. It's like the good guys got to pass cars, but obviously, like Kyle said, the rain, it really just made the format, not work that great with how wet the track was. But that's 1 year and how many, and we. You don't want a knee-jerk reaction. So, maybe just a slight tweak in case that does happen again. The wheel maybe it's a 4 invert or something. And I think it wouldn't have been near as big of a deal.
Playing the invert is like, it's just part of the game, right? I mean, it's part of the strategy of putting yourself in the best position. So like, I don't think it's taboo to ask this or talk about it, but like, how difficult is qualifying when you're actually trying to do that and you're trying to just like hit a target lap of what you think you need to be in to like put yourself in the best position possible? Because like, qualifying is in principle all just about going out there and just ripping as fast of a lap as you can. So how do you understand where you're supposed to be? And is it a feel thing? Are you looking at the board? Like, how do you do that?
Well, for years, I mean, the 49, we did a really good job. It's a lot easier when you draw a little later, and it's a lot easier when the track, it's usually like a half a second. 4 to 5 tenths is from like first to 36, 6 times 6. So yeah, it's like 30. So you kind of know, like, if you're pretty fast in hot laps, to slow down 2 tenths or even 3 tenths is actually pretty easy. I know it's, like you just got to basically breathe the throttle a little bit, and then and then you'll slow down. I think you saw that with gravel. I think he just nailed it perfect. But I didn't feel like, with how tight it was between a high 12.8 and a 13.0, that was really what it came down to. I didn't feel like it was as possible, but David obviously proved it, that you could, and he did a great job. And it is a game. I don't think it's taboo. I don't know why anybody should think it's taboo. Like, the rules are the rules, and you're there to try to win the race. It doesn't matter how you try to accomplish to win the race. The invert, they do it so that the smaller teams feel like they have a chance when they get there, because they're going to start on the front of a heat, or they don't need a big engine. So, if you're a guy doing this for a living and you're there to win the race, and you're going to be in a better position by, going a tenth or two slower in qualifying, then you probably are going to look at that. It's a lot easier to start on the front row of a heat or second row of a heat than the third row of a heat. So we didn't play the game right, but over the years, it certainly has been played. When they brought the wheel out, that's when I didn't feel like you could play the game anymore. So that's why I thought that was kind of a better situation, because I don't really love when me and my crew chief are talking about how to go slower in qualifying, I don't love that, but I get it, and I'm not complaining at all.
Yeah, it's part of it, like you said. So, all right. Kyle, do you have anything else you want to talk about from Eldora, or are you good? Anything on your mind?
No. Glad I got through Saturday night without crashing. It was sketchy. So I thought there was many times I was going to start bouncing and flipping. So, was just happy to get out of there and, get a top 5 in the Kings Royal from where we started. I thought was good. So, I feel like our car is in a good spot right now. So just got to keep tweaking on things, get a little bit better, and try and go win an Austin Nationals here soon.
Yep. It's coming up. We've got a couple high limit races before then. First, as we said, tomorrow, July 25th, Tuesday at Grandview Speedway in Pennsylvania. Let me make sure I get the event name correct here. The Richmar Florists High Limit Sprint Car Series, powered by Levin Machine and Truck Equipment. So I will have to be reading that on the PA because I'm not going to be able to memorize that. You guys, everybody have their merch stocked up. The PA fans are always ready to run you guys out of t-shirts and stuff. So has everybody got all their stuff ready to sell?
I don't know. I got to check with Lex. I know we did really good at Eldora, and she ordered Brad probably knows the quantities of all that more than I do. I know she had tons of hats, tons of shirts, and we basically sold out of everything. So I hope KSP's got us restocked and ready to go to PA, because the PA fans are great. They're amazing. They love buying merchandise. I don't race in Pennsylvania, or at least in Central PA, much at all this year. This might be my only race really near Central PA. So come out, buy your Kyle Larson merchandise. This might be the only chance you get this year.
Stop.
I'm excited. I'm excited for Grandview. I've heard,
Me too.
a lot of, I haven't been there in years. I've raced USAC there, and I remember the crowd being really good. And I've heard a lot of people talk about how big these crowds can be. And just the other night at Williams Grove, it was like every person that came up to me was like super excited to go to the high limit race at Grandview on Tuesday. Can't wait. So I heard that a lot. So I'm expecting that we're going to have a, packed house and a great atmosphere. And obviously, hopefully we'll put on a great show.
When I announced for USAC, Grandview is always the start of Eastern Storm. So it was always a Tuesday. And every year, I was there for 3 straight years. And every year the place was like jam packed. Like you couldn't get another person in there, it seemed like. So they love it. And hopefully everybody shows up again tomorrow. So what, as Brad was saying, I've only seen a non-wings race there. So what's the challenge, Kyle, of getting a wing car around there? Because it's kind of a unique shape. It can be the racing surface itself is kind of just narrow. It's not the racing groove, just the surface itself is kind of a narrow track. So what's the challenge of getting around there?
Yeah, Grandview to me is it's exciting. It's fun. It's challenging. Man, like hot laps and qualifying. I've been there when the track's kind of gripped up, and you feel like you're hauling ass around that place. It's narrow. The wall is like not straight at all, or the boilerplate, as the announcer calls it. So it's super fast. And then like before the feature, they'll water it. You're like, damn, like we're gonna be locked down for 30, 40 laps here. And then you go out and like lap 3, like the wing is trunked, like it's slick. It's got really kind of weird black dirt. I've never raced on black dirt like that. It's really good dirt. I think most of the time, black dirt, when it gets slick, it takes rubber really fast. And I've only been there once, I think, when it's taken rubber. So it gets really slick. The lane changes quite a bit throughout the race and after restarts and stuff. So you've always got to be kind of searching, I think even under green and under caution, you gotta have your eyes kind of wandering to see what lanes are developing and clean it off. So I love Grandview. I would say Port Royal is probably my favorite track in Pennsylvania, and then Grandview would be second. So the 57 is always good there too. So that makes things more fun. But I'm excited. I was really, really happy when we were able to get this race on our schedule because of the track itself, but then also, as we've all said, the crowd, every time I've been there for a PA Speedweek race, it's packed. So I imagine with our series coming and with the Pennsylvania Speedweek race raining out, it's going to be huge. So looking forward to the event tomorrow.
And it's kind of the end of the summer break, I guess, for High Limit. We've got another break after these next few, but run Grandview tomorrow and then Kokomo next week. And then everybody goes to Knoxville, and then we go to Houston. So there's a lot of big time stuff coming up. So we are live on FloRacing tomorrow at 6:10 p.m. Eastern time. And again, that is for the Richmar Florists High Limit Sprint Car Series, powered by Levin Machine and Truck Equipment. So we'll get things going, as we said, at 6:10 Eastern time. All right. Before we go, let's do hold 'em or fold 'em. I know you guys have a couple fold'ems. I'm going to hold the AJ Foyt documentary that FloRacing put out. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to see that. It's the second installment of the Legends of Racing series that the Flo Films team has done. They did a great one on the Bettenhausen family earlier this year. The AJ Foyt one is just as good, and probably the one I enjoy more because I ran 14 on my cars when I was younger because of AJ. So if you haven't had a chance to watch that, be sure to check it out. what are we folding this week, boys? There's a couple things we threw around before we got recording. So what are we?
I want to hold racing for $1 million every year.
Okay, that's a good one.
We could do that again. My fold'em would probably be not having the wheel at the Kings Royal. Like, we need the wheel back. So folding just the set invert would be my one fold.
You want it to be different every, the opportunity.
I think the wheel makes it. Yeah, it makes it unknown. I like that. So folding, not having the wheel, I guess, would be the right way to say that.
Okay.
Or folding. Yeah.
I get what you're saying. It's a good one.
Okay.
Kyle, what do you got?
I don't know. I had the same, at least fold'em as Brad. I just think the known 6 invert could go, but I do like the invert of some unknown number for Kings Royal. And honestly, even the million, the wheel with the bigger invert in gaining points. I really loved the million format, and then inverting 8, which it ended up being for the heat races. And then I don't know if it was 8 or 10 for the feature. I thought those were great inverts because it put some jam cars up front, especially with the field being split too. It helps. So yeah, I think hold the million format for other big races, whether it be Saturday night at Kings Royal or even other tracks. I think could adapt the million format.
Okay. I've got another fold. We're going to fold our producer, Tyler Burnett's fishing skills. He was not very impressive with our boy Jack at the.
That was a great piece. I haven't seen the AJ Foyt piece, but I did watch the Jack Hewitt one with Tyler, and it was really good. I mean, Jack's obviously hilarious, and then Tyler looked about how I think I would be fishing. But I did send Tyler, I sent him a text because I was sitting next to our 10-year-old friend, Grayson Price, who fishes all the time. He's like, oh my God, he doesn't even know how to set a hook, or like talking all sorts of crap on him. It was hilarious. Like, and then he sent me a picture of this like big bass that he caught. He's like, send this picture to him. Send this picture to him. So I thought that was great. A 10-year-old was talking smack.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's good. All right. I think that's going to do it for episode 8 here. As we said, Grandview tomorrow, Kokomo next week, the rain out makeup date, August 1st. And then we're on Huset's on August 15th. Those are the next 3 coming up for High Limit Sprint Car Series, 6:10 Eastern tomorrow night. We'll get going from Grandview. Guys, thank you. I guess we'll see you tomorrow.
Sounds good. Thank you. See ya.
Yep. Thanks, guys.